Welcome to Bon Mots, where we'll be applying the Manzer or mostly Thurlow scale of quantitative analysis of pop culture narrative through a binary system.
Or Mots! This podcast contains spoilers, mature content, and language. Viewer discretion advised.
Hello, and welcome back to Bon Mots. We're talking about the Oscars, and we are once again this year joined by our good friend Morgan Goldin.
Hi.
So thanks for coming out, Morgan. I just want to...
I'm here too.
Well, I will introduce you as well.
Hi, Scott.
Myself
What's up, buddy?
I just want to give a quick shout out. Morgan's got a podcast that is now maybe defunct, maybe not, maybe coming back.
Just on hiatus.
Called Amusing Ourselves to Death.
TBD.
And
Hopefully soon coming
check it
back.
out. It is quite good. So I'm going to be your host, Steve Ramosi, and I'm here joined by Scott Thurlow.
Sorry, but what's up, everyone?
So thanks again, man, for coming by. We do this every year, and it's always a lot of fun.
It's a tradition. Oscar tradition with Morgan Goldin.
Yeah, I'm glad we can keep getting you out.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, man. It's
Anytime,
fun.
dude.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess we can kind of jump into it. I guess before we start talking about the specific movies that are up for Oscars this year for the 2017 awards, let's do kind of what we've done in a couple of past years and talk about like the social state of Hollywood in 2017 past year and
A State of the Union?
Yeah, a little State of the Union.
Okay.
So, like, where do you think they are, maybe compared to the first year we did this, 2 or 3 years ago?
There has been incremental progress. I mean, after 2 years in a row of Oscars So White, the president of the Academy, which I unfortunately forgot her name, she's no longer the president, but there was like a big hiring increase for diversity. So you had like a lot more members that were younger and breaking away from the standard demographic that usually comprises the Academy. And I think with the nominees that you've seen these past 2 years, that has been reflected really well.
Yeah, I agree. I can see that, and I certainly think it's a good thing. I said that, I think, on the post, that if only this movie wasn't... We'll get to it, but I see what you mean, and it's a positive change, I think, for the Academy.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're never...
At least it's progress, like you said.
Yeah. You're never not going to have a movie like The Post as a nominee. You're not going to ever have
But
like...
why? We'll talk about it soon.
You're never not going to have 9 Get Out-like movies nominated in 1 year.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's never gonna... Yeah, you're never gonna get that. Or, well, maybe one day. Maybe we can
getting there.
We could dream.
Yeah.
We're getting there.
But yeah, I think it's really interesting that I guess there's starting to be a little bit of progress being made on that front, and like there is a little bit more diversity, but you know they're still having issues, obviously, with that, especially in terms of like casting white people in Asian roles, which happens a lot, or I guess not as much as it used to, but still is happening. And
I will say, in terms of that regard, at least there's more of a pushback than in previous years.
Yeah,
like,
which is good.
You know, within the time that we since last recorded, a movie like Ghost in the Shell came and flopped, and the studio is crediting it with the backlash faced from the Asian American community. So they are listening, I feel like.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that'll.
Well, they're listening because they're losing money, obviously, but at least that's something.
Well, the only way you're ever going to get a company to do anything.
Yeah.
They're losing money.
I'm not disagreeing, but
yeah,
just cynically, of course.
That's how you get a company to hear you.
Put them with their wallet. But yeah.
So about the Oscars themselves, right? Like, do you think that? What do you think about like award ceremonies like this? Do you think it's like just stars congratulating themselves, like you hear
circle
a lot
jerk?
Like, yeah, or do you think it's or do you think it's like worth having an award season and things like that, and it worth watching?
I mean, I think it's both. You know, obviously, when you have this small pool of nominees, it is always like a popularity contest in this industry. But at the same time, this is a record of what came out. It is a broad overview of what pop culture was like in 2017. So I think in terms of like a longer conversation years down the line, people can look back and these were the movies nominated and they can have arguments. Does that reflect the time? Are these even good? If they're not good, like what else was going on and why were these seen? So I think from like a sociological viewpoint, there is some value to having that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I like going back over like old years of...
So those stories of the future can be like, what the fuck are they making?
Yeah,
exactly. You know, it's a record.
You go back to like the 70s or even back to like, when did the Oscars start?
The 20s.
20s? Yeah, so like even back that far and you can like look at movies and you're like, oh, maybe I should watch this movie that won an Oscar in 1927, or
Right. Does that reflect the current mood going on?
I do like that point. Like whatever movies were in the nominees for each year reflected insensibly like the zeitgeist of the industry at the time,
Right.
and of society at large. So yeah, I think it's a valid point.
Sometimes you look back and it'll make you cry. Like you look at a year like 1976 where you have Network, Taxi Driver,
Yeah.
just all these incredible movies. You're like, why are we so far away from that?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
maybe we'll get that down the line again soon, and that could be something to strive for.
We had 99 in our lifetimes, like that was a great year for movies.
That was a great year. I've said this repeatedly. I think 1999 is one of the best years, if not the best year of cinema in my lifetime. But you look at the list of nominees from that, and Sixth Sense,
Yeah.
really.
yeah, that's true.
How many people are still rocking Cider House rules? But, it was an exciting time, and it was still kind of like a break from the old way and getting some newer stuff. Like a movie like American Beauty could take Best Picture, which did take risks.
Mhm.
And of course now will always be associated with Kevin Spacey not really acting.
Right.
But I digress.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
We're all monsters, man.
I guess as a small digression, that was a really crazy year for movies, and it's wild that. What year did Shakespeare in Love come out?
98.
That was the year before. I couldn't
Just
remember
on
if
the
that was the
cusp.
same year or not. But did that win?
That did win.
Oh God,
There was
why?
a big controversy with Saving Private Ryan was
Oh,
that
yeah,
year. Thin Red Line. Not sure what the other nominees were.
Yeah, nothing standout, I guess. But
I mean, and then again, if you want to bring up why Shakespeare in Love won, that was also some of the machinations of Harvey Weinstein with his big push, treating like Oscar campaigns as if they were political campaigns.
yeah.
And I mean,
that was a big start of that, or maybe not even the start, but that was a big continuation.
he
of that.
capitalized on that. I mean, the whole house of Miramax was really pushing like all these lavish parties and networking events to really get it out there. And it paid off with a win for a movie like Shakespeare in Love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I mean, speaking of within the past upheaval of the year in the industry, I miss living in a time where I thought the worst thing Harvey Weinstein did was cut Gangs of New York from Martin
Yeah.
Scorsese rather than be an absolute fucking monster that he looks like.
Just the cinematic crimes. That is crime against humanity in general.
Well,
Right. Like, Jesus
we're
Christ.
getting a lot of not interesting, terrible fucking news out of Hollywood these days. But
Which is crazy because it was so in the open and yet not. Like, you look at a lot of pop culture where they would make fun of the movies, and a show like Entourage had their own Harvey-like figure.
Right.
And you would laugh because it's like you felt like some kind of insider baseball knowledge, like, oh, he is a bully like that. And it's funny, but it's like, oh, wait, he is literally physically assaulting people.
Yeah.
And we're kind of letting this happen.
Yeah, it's wild. I guess that.
On that note,
I mean, I guess that is kind of a big part of like
in all seriousness,
Hollywood
like,
this year.
perhaps that's a good, not a good sign, but like you said earlier, how the old guard is being forced out because of their practices and because of where they are, and getting some new blood, new faces, and more diverse. So,
Absolutely.
Which is nice. Yeah, it's good to see some fresh blood, some fresh faces. A24 as a studio has been incredible the last few
absolutely.
years. I didn't even realize that they were the studio behind like
Almost everything awesome.
8 of my favorite movies in the last year and a half. Like everything they put out. They did. Well, it was last year. They did
Moonlight.
Moonlight.
Mm-hmm.
They did The Lobster. They did. There were like 2 other.
Green Room.
Green
The
Room.
Witch.
Yeah.
The list goes on and on. I mean, when they make a record of the best movies from this decade, I feel like over a quarter will just be from that studio
It's
itself.
insane. They're killing it. They're doing a great job. And they're represented pretty well in this year's Oscar crop as well.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess let's.
Speaking of this year,
Let's talk about what movies are nominated for Best Picture, which I guess is what we'll kind of get started talking about. We'll talk about some of the other nominees.
As
later.
an aside, can they just tell all these 9 movies, pack it in, and just put Black Panther 9 times in a row in all the categories as well?
it would be awesome.
Black Panther, I know you came out in 2018, but you're going to win the
Right.
2017 Oscar.
You've been out for 2 weeks, which is more than enough to make an impression on us.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Like, well, I guess Get Out came out in February, but like,
Yeah,
I expect there to be a full-on.
Almost a year
Oscar
to the
rush,
release of Black Panther.
Yeah.
It's kind of been like
that's right.
kind of
True.
crazy bookend to that.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. But let's go over the. Unfortunately, Black Panther can't cross all these out and get in there. So let's go over all the nominees for the 2017 Oscars. Best Picture category: Call Me by Your Name, Darkest Hour. I guess this is in alphabetical order. No particular order except
It
for
is.
alphabetical.
Not your preferences.
So Call Me By Your Name, Darkest Hour. Not my preferences. I have those written down here elsewhere. Dunkirk, Get Out, Lady Bird, Phantom Thread, The Post, The Shape of Water, and 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. So I guess, let me ask you this, Morgan. If you had to name your top 5 from this list,
Okay.
what would you put on there?
And this is a very strong list too.
And if you
Yeah,
can,
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. It's a pretty strong list. But if you can, rank them. If not, if
All
you're
the movies?
no, just top
Top 5.
Oh, the top
Do it like high
5.
fidelity style.
Your
Okay.
top 5.
My top 5 are Phantom Thread, Get Out, Call Me By Your Name, Lady Bird, and The Shape of Water.
All right.
Shape of Water is number 5, you mean?
Yes,
Ranking?
by
Okay.
personal ranking.
Okay.
And as an aside, I have seen all of these except for Dunkirk, so maybe that's an unfair ranking, but out of all the ones I have seen, those are
Nah,
where they rank.
it's fine.
I can assure you Dunkirk would not be in your top 5.
Yes.
Knowing you
I wouldn't
for
want to
last
sully
week.
your official
Yeah.
ballot over here.
It's cool.
And in all fairness, when Oscar voters, they don't see all the ones that are nominated as well,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is unfortunate when you hear about that.
That is pretty unfortunate. So, saying those top 5, I would probably.
What are yours?
So mine would be, I think, Get Out, Shape of Water, 3 Billboards, maybe. Call Me By Your Name and Lady Bird. I think I would leave Phantom Thread entirely off of my top 5.
Fair. Stupid, but fair.
You idiot.
Yeah, I mean, I really loved the style of Phantom Thread. I loved the camera work and the music and everything that came together to make it a movie. But I wasn't as enthralled with that as with some of these other movies, I guess.
Okay.
And that's kind of... What about you,
Yeah,
Scott?
I mean, I somewhat agree. I mean, we said that on our Phantom Thread review. So similarly, I do not have it on my list, but mine would be 3 Billboards, Shape of Water, Get Out, Call Me By Your Name, and Lady Bird, rounding it out.
All right.
Nice.
So
I briefly talked about this with you, Morgan, and we're going to get into it.
Okay.
I meant to ask you before we got here, but I'm glad that I didn't. So now we can be completely upfront about it, and I'm just going to hit you.
I think I know where this is going.
Across the face with it.
Just hit me across the face. with
Just
it.
slap you across the face with the question.
metaphorically, of course.
3 Billboards.
Yes.
I know you had issues with it.
Right.
What up?
What up with the issues?
What up with the issues?
All right. First, let me offer these caveats where I am a fan of Martin McDonagh. I like his plays. I got to see one of them performed a couple years ago,
Awesome.
The Beauty Queen of Lenan, for its 20th anniversary. I loved In Bruges, his debut feature film.
Mm,
Wasn't too crazy about 7 Psychopaths, but not enough to write it off. And with this one, I'm still not ready to write him off as a talent. I see why 3 Billboards is so popular. Just for me, it's very frustrating because there's a lot that the movie does right, but there's a couple things that I can't just write off. There's a few flaws, and it puts me right at the middle of how
Fair
I
enough.
feel about this movie. I like what it says philosophically. I like where it's at in terms of how it views the limits of compassion. I like how it lets Frances McDormand have a Liam Neeson role,
Yeah.
where she's just kicking ass all over this place.
Yeah.
I guess some of my quibbles with it are a couple instances in the writing and maybe how Martin McDonagh, as a European, tries to approach American racism.
Mm.
I guess I'll tackle the couple quibbles with the writing first. I usually love his dialogue, his sharp wit, but just a few instances in the writing kind of made my eyes roll. Like the scene where there's a flashback to the daughter leaving the house, the last night that she's alive, that Frances McDormand sees her. They have a fight. We already have seen prior to this that Frances McDormand, Mildred, I think,
Mildred is her
character
character name, yep.
She feels guilty about her daughter's death, and obviously so. But to have her right before she walks out of the house at the end of their fight, I hope I get raped and murdered.
I know,
and then she goes, I hope you get raped too. I'm like,
Yeah, I know you're gonna say
really? Are you kidding me? Is that for the back of the house so they understand why
Yeah.
she feels guilty?
All right, go
I
on.
just felt it was unnecessary,
Yeah.
not enough to
I wanted to address
overall
that,
detract.
but I'll wait till you're done there with the points.
And I guess another instance where the writing I felt leaned a little too hard was in the treatment of the ex-husband's younger girlfriend, where they're at the restaurant and she's talking about a book and she's like, polo or polio? which is the one that's the game again? I'm like, if you're reading a fucking book about it, you would know what this is. Like, we get it. She's an idiot. But I felt like it leaned a little too hard. So little quibbles with that. And I guess how, like, frustrated I am with his treatment of American racism is in the character of Dixon. First of all, he's a racist and his name's Dixon. Okay.
Yeah, we get it. Yeah.
Not really with the subtlety. But just, it kind of brushes off, like, it's the joke throughout the movie that he has tortured black prisoners, and it's kind of given no weight. It's kind of like, ha, isn't he quirky? And I'm just like, no, that's a really fucked up thing to do.
Yeah.
And the movie kind of brushes it off, which rubbed me the wrong way, because I think it belittles the seriousness of this issue when real life law enforcement and maybe large factions of mainstream society don't see it as a serious problem.
No, that's fair. Like, I just want to say, like, I don't think he was brushing it off, but I can't really speak to it except as an outside, like, observer, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
But I see what you mean, and we sort of, like, got into it a little bit on air when we discussed Three Billboards, like, that aspect of his character, at least.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, like, I want to go back to let's take away from racism and go back to rape. Like, that scene, like, the way you described, like, I noticed that in the theater when I saw it, but also I was like, I get it because it's supposed to be, like, more, like, visually horrifying for her, because there was a fight between her daughter. But also, like, I get what you mean, like, in case you're not clear of the theme of the movie, like I get that.
Yeah, I don't think they needed to underline it.
Yeah,
like
I guess
they did.
They showed in, they tell them not showed, I guess, like, sort of in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so I get that too. But anyway, I did want to ask you. So we're sort of having a divide in a sense that I didn't think Phantom Thread was all that strong narratively.
Mm-hmm.
Cinematography-wise, like, as a film, yeah, it looked amazing, and everybody was, of course, Daniel Day-Lewis and, yeah, I can't remember his co-star's name.
I know the character's name's Alma. I think her name's Vicky Creeps.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right.
Sounds about right.
I think this might be her first. I don't know if it's her first film. It's her first debut on such, like, a large scale like that.
Sure. But yeah, like, I thought they were very strong in it. It's just that because it was a character study of their relationship, there's not much room for the narrative to do much except follow them around.
Right.
So that was, like, my biggest quibble with it. Like, what I thought was, like, a well done, like, competent film, like, very visually appealing. Just story wise, like, narratively, like I said, to me, it was like, yeah, I get it. Like, I get what you're trying to set up, and we're following the story, and there it is.
I think with P.T. Anderson, though, that's kind of his, like, been his MO since his start. Like, it's not always about, like, a point A to point B. It's almost like hanging out with the characters. Like, ever since Boogie Nights or Magnolia, he always has these large, in-depth ensembles, and you just lounge with them. Like, you kind of are with them through moments. Sometimes they're tedious, sometimes they're exciting, but in a way, it replicates the experience of actually hanging out with these people.
That's true.
And I really felt like he delved into this really twisted relationship in a very unique way. And maybe I'm imposing more importance into it, but in terms of, like, all these stories of abusive relationships, to actually have the woman reclaim her power, I just thought was really an amazing twist. Like, halfway through, where we find out that he actually knows, or that he's cool with her poisoning him. I'm like, holy shit. Like, I was ready to applaud at, like, maybe the climax of the movie before it actually ended.
No, I get you. I don't know. The funny thing we said, it was like 50 Shades of Daniel Day-Lewis, like, in that something. Like, Ian said something like it was a classier 50 Shades because of that dynamic and aspect of relationship. And,
right.
Like, I get that. And yeah, you're right. It's a good mess. It's a good, I don't even think it was a twist, a good development to have.
Right.
For sure.
Like, it's not like you could call it or see that it's coming, but it's definitely a turn that you wouldn't expect it to take.
I guess my final thought in that, like, if not rebuttal, just, you're right. Like, it is, like, very in his style to, like, you're hanging out with the characters, but I didn't particularly want to hang out with these people, like, all that often. Like,
well, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, the tedious parts were, like, very tedious to me. So that was all.
Well, I guess that is the thing. Like, I like the movie a lot, but again, this is a very strong year, and I liked a lot of these movies a lot, except for The Post, which I'm going to talk about in a minute.
Go on.
I think every movie was pretty damn good this year, and Phantom Thread was a brilliantly done movie by Paul Thomas Anderson, who, like, you go into the movies, but, like, I feel like his other movies are people that I'd rather hang out with,
right,
than this guy who makes suits and
I mean, would that be There Will Be Blood? You'd rather hang out with Daniel Plainview?
I'd rather be a fly on the wall
in that
for
room.
that.
I want to be part of Bill the Butcher's gang, even though that wasn't PT.
That's more a DDL.
I had a better time watching that than I did. Actually, what do you think? What do you think was a better movie, this one or There Will Be Blood?
I think There Will Be Blood's a better movie. But then again, I think compared to that, The Master is a better movie than that. If I had to rank my P.T. Anderson movies,
Fair enough.
it would probably, I mean, if you really want to go a digression quickly.
Yeah.
All right, I would put The Master, There Will Be Blood, Punch Drunk Love, Phantom Thread, Inherent Vice, Magnolia, Boogie Nights, then Hard Eight.
Wow. I still haven't seen The Master. I gotta watch that. That's definitely.
We'll review
on
it
my list.
at some future
It's your
date.
favorite
One of the
PTA.
last Philip Seymour Hoffman performances, too.
Yeah, I know. All right. So, Phantom Thread, Morgan loves it. Actually, Morgan, you put it at number one on your mix video that you do every year.
I did indeed.
Check that out.
So yeah, actually, I'll post a link to that as well.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Morgan every year, and I posted a link earlier in the year as well when it first came out. But Morgan every year does a video of just his supercut of like all his favorite movies of the year. How many did you do this year? 30?
I did 30.
Jesus.
You have 30 favorite movies?
I did
That's a lot
30.
to-
I cut out a lot. I could have done 50, but I thought that would have been ridiculous.
Sure.
And in my reasoning, as I explained in the brief thing with the video, is just that it was a really shitty year. And if it gave me any amount of pleasure, why not shout it out? I didn't want to have to pick. So
That's
I
fair.
cut myself off at 30, but I added 10 more than I normally do.
Yeah. And it's a great video. I love watching those every year. Like I kind of wait
Thanks,
for
man.
them.
To be clear, for audiences who don't know that you are in fact working within the film industry, and he knows how to make films. Is what I'm saying. He knows how to edit.
He knows what he's doing over here.
Aw.
It's more than just a fan edit.
So anyway, let's talk about
Go on.
The Post.
Okay.
My least favorite movie of the year.
hmm
Going from talking about our favorites to our
Yes.
least favorite. The Post was a hot pile of garbage that Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks made, and there was a bunch of other people as
No
well.
Shaper's in it too.
no, just them.
Yeah,
But we blame them specifically.
it's their fault that this is an Oscar movie,
Mhm.
at least.
But they're partly the blame. They're largely the blame.
I thought that it was kind of slapdash, and for me, this is 2 out of the 3 years that we've been doing this. Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg have teamed up to make the worst movie that's nominated for an Oscar. So they don't have a good track record in the last 3 years with me.
Mhm.
Anyways, the other one being Bridge of Spies from a couple years ago. But what'd you think?
What do you make
What'd
of
you think
that?
of The Post?
I left the theater liking it, but with problems with it. But the more I thought about it, the more they kind of outweighed whatever goodwill I had developed towards it.
Right.
And full disclosure, I actually did like Bridge of Spies. Like, I definitely know I liked it more than you guys did. I don't know if it ranked with the other nominees from 2015, but I thought it was an overall solid flick. Like, I like that Spielberg is kind of in his political journalist mode right now, going from like movies like Lincoln to Bridge of
Sure.
Spies to this. I appreciate that he's working in that arena, but with something like this, and I know the backstory of how he wanted to rush it to theaters, I think it could have used another pass on the script level of where they even wanted to focus the story.
Yes.
Because when you watch The Post, it almost feels like we have some really dramatic shit happening behind the scenes, but we're going to focus on these people.
Yeah.
And it just felt really unsatisfying. And they have the setup, because they talk about that. When you have like the Daniel Ellsberg character, the journalist who was in Vietnam, who actually uncovers the Pentagon Papers. He's afraid for his life. He's hiding in hotel rooms. You probably see him for 5 minutes of the movie,
Yep.
but then they spend so much time on these lavish parties that Meryl Streep's character is in. I'm like, I don't care about that.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I agree. It felt a little like haphazard, I guess. And you said slapdash, and I think we agree on that point. And like, I guess, I don't know if I open up a can of worms of like going to the greater like culture and aspect of why it's like automatic, right? You said like, there'll never not be a Steven Spielberg film like this nominated, but why not? Why can't we move beyond that? Like, is it just like my pet peeve is that it's just pedigree. It's because it's him and Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep, like more or less. Like, and so it's gonna like it automatically gets a pass. But why? Because as we just said, we felt. I think all of us can sort of be on the same page. Like, it was okay at best. Like, it was fine. But certainly, I bet you can name 10 movies or more, Morgan, that you would put into the spot where The Post is versus The Post being in the noms.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So, like, and maybe that's true, like, generally, but I feel as if there's so many more, like, that were better than it. That could have been better chosen or, like,
Right.
better represented, that deserved it more.
Right. And this could have been a good movie. Like, if you want to talk about the themes, it sounds like, all right, this should be in the conversation
Sure,
of what's going
I'm
on.
not saying that
But in
it
terms
shouldn't
of the
either.
execution,
Yeah.
it left a lot lacking.
Yeah.
Exactly, dude.
Yeah, there's a lot to this. Like, as I was looking at something and somebody mentioned this about The Post. It was like, just an example of like kind of the slapdash nature of the script and the directing, where it's like Tom Hanks shows up at Meryl Streep's at
Catherine Graham.
I think we could just say the
House.
actors at this point.
like fucking 5 times in the course of this movie. Is like they start like hanging a lampshade on it by the end of the movie, where he's like, oh, sorry to keep dropping in like this on you. Like, is there not a more interesting way to do this scene than doing the exact same thing like 4 times? Like, what the hell, man? Spielberg, you are better than this.
It's weird. They felt like they had 3 sets. The Washington Post office, her house,
and that,
and then maybe they redecorated the larger offices to also be the Supreme Court or whatever.
Right. But like the ones, and they have this like this terribly just.
They have strange cuts.
Seems,
I think you might say the one.
It seems so like negatively like pandering the feminist message in this. There's like a scene where like I guess all the secretaries of the guys inside the chamber are just like lining the stairs, like waiting for Cat Graham to go inside, and they're just like looking at her in like silent awe. There's like this you don't know like anybody else's fucking name except for her. Like I'm pretty sure you don't find out what her daughter's name is in this movie.
She says it once.
You mean it's not Alison Brie?
Yeah, exactly.
It might as well be.
Like, I don't know. It's just crazy.
As another thing too, the casting in this movie is really weird and not necessarily in a good way. Yeah, you mentioned that, but you have all these great comic voices, but you have like Zach Woods, Jesse Plemons. You're gonna have a Mr. Show with Bob and Dave,
yeah,
and not make me try to make me not think about that.
And something that Ian mentioned when we were doing the actual episode is like Bob Odenkirk is just like randomly clumsy as hell. I guess just so he can do like physical comedy like,
shit for no reason.
It's just so strange. Like it's such a strange thing with Spielberg. Just like Odenkirk, give us a couple minutes of like fumbling around with the phone, like dropping all the quarters and shit. Like just make it funny.
I mean, that's probably where they got the tension from. When he's trying to remember a phone number and pick up the change.
Yeah, I guess.
But it's like, why would you choose that to be where you get your tension from? You get it from trying to break the story.
Yeah, exactly.
And, you have the woman who goes into the office with a box and is like asking for a so-and-so reporter. Where's her arc? How did she get these papers from the guy? Like, there's so much better movie in the margins, and it chooses to not focus on them.
And I want to... Actually, now that you mentioned that, this may be like the last thing I'll say about this, but you made me think of something when you mentioned Bridge of Spies, is that that seemed to be a running trend to me where there's a plot line or a character introduced that could or should be important, but falls by the wayside. In Bridge of Spies, it was the second prisoner guy, I think.
The American caught.
Yeah. Or like, you didn't really get much of a story. In this one, in the Post, the setup is before they even get the Pentagon Papers, they're going public with the company, which is supposed to like have some source of dramatic tension, but that doesn't matter in the end.
Right.
And as you said, what about the guy who was actually like the embedded journalist who leaks the Pentagon Papers? Where's his story?
Yeah. I don't care about your stock sharings. Yeah. I don't care if the board members are unhappy.
It doesn't even matter to the end. Like they could have cut that out of the movie entirely.
Why is this a focus of it?
That's what I mean.
Fucking bean counters are going to get the sympathy.
Yeah. And like the thing is, like that'd be fine if it wasn't a goddamn Spielberg movie in a sense. Like like he should have the knowledge and the skills at this point to know that it's a bad move.
Right.
So anyway,
it feels
that's all
like
I'm saying.
Spielberg was coming at it from a 1%er. Like what affects me? My market shares. And this will be relatable to everyday Americans.
So anyway, so I just wanted to point that out because you made me think
it's a wasted opportunity. And then the ending is the biggest fucking insult ever.
Or the greatest like sequel bait hook ever.
Well, shouldn't that go after the credits? Like doesn't it just feel like that was added right?
Because
the Marvel
it's a tag.
Yeah, but no, because he's setting up he's gonna make Watergate with Tom Hanks next, of course. Like, that'll be next year's movie.
The Post 2, the Watergatening.
They already made that movie. It's called All the President's Men. Which already has the Ben Bradley character.
I understand. We said all this, and that's why I think it's funny. Like I said, why even have that little stinger, if you will, at the end of the movie? It doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Anyway, so that's my final shitting.
I mean, I've always had a problem with Spielberg and endings, even though I am generally a fan of his. But it's just like, just chop that out. I don't get why that's necessary. It's like no one's not going to know that he did Watergate.
Last 45 minutes of AI, like. Anyway,
so that's enough of shitting on Post.
All right,
Return to sender.
Shitting on Spielberg.
That's
what
I said about the Post,
which is good.
Sick burn, Rex Reed.
Suck on that pun, fuckers. Go on.
We won't talk much about Dunkirk. Anyway,
Well, I think there's two we can combine, perhaps.
We'll talk about Dunkirk a little bit as we talk about this movie now, The Darkest Hour.
Yes, exactly.
Which they're based in the exact same time frame.
Right.
Technically, one movie encompasses the story of the other, like more
Darkest
or less.
Hour. The most interesting thing about Darkest Hour being how awesome of an actor Gary Oldman is, because you know what? I know Daniel Day-Lewis wins every fucking year, but if Gary Oldman doesn't beat him this year, my mind will be blown. I think.
Okay.
I think that this, like, I didn't see Gary Oldman in this movie. I saw fucking Winston Churchill. I don't know about you. What do you think about that? But.
I mean, I agree, but then again, I never see Gary Oldman in a role. Like,
Well, that's
he
exactly
is
it.
one of the ultimate chameleonic actors. Like, he can embody Sid Vicious. He can embody Dracula. He could be Drexel Spivey from Truman.
Spivey.
He never repeats himself. So, of course, he would go fully into this immersive acting role.
Yeah.
And he was a great element in it. But even besides his lead performance, I feel like this movie was unusually visually strong for this type of film. Like, I was kind of hesitant to see it because I was thinking, oh, it's going to be another...
It follows a formula.
King's Speech kind of thing, which I was not a fan of. But I actually do like Joe Wright, the director, a lot. Like, he knows his way around a camera. Some of the shots in this are so striking.
Yeah,
like
we definitely said that, and we agree.
In the theater, when you have that aerial shot of a battlefield, and it's just so high up, but then as it comes to the end, it's like a body buried, like you see part of a face.
Yeah.
And just to like really condense the horrors of war, because we're so used to those aerial footage. And then to see like, oh yeah, there's going to be dead people in there. And it just really brings it, hammers that point in. I was like, holy shit.
I agree. I mentioned those scenes specifically on the review because I thought they were really well done. And something you don't, like you said.
You don't see that.
It's a little unique way of like doing that in a war quote film.
Absolutely. And even the way Churchill was framed when he's in the underground bunker, he's always in another frame. He's boxed in. Like you see through
doorways.
windows and frames. Like he just feels all this immense pressure of which way is he going to lean in the ultimate decision that happens.
Yeah,
I was just going to say that there's a ton of great hallway shots in this movie that, like, you know, he's coming in down a hallway and you just have the closing in of the hallway with the perspective and how it's shot is pretty brilliantly
Even
shot.
the graphics of the changing of the date where you hear the clock tick. It's like, oh yeah, minutes are ticking. You're going to feel that. Even like a simple effect like that, I just thought was really well done.
Absolutely.
No, I agree. So like, if we're going to sort of double kill this with Dunkirk, in a similar but like, if we're to say an opposite but similar manner, Dunkirk has like a lot of open sweeping shots of the beaches and so forth.
Right.
The soldiers like huddled there. It's like, so it has tension there too, but sort of like in a different, like it's very quiet. For a lot of the
Dunkirk?
time. Yeah.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is on the beaches. It is. And
there
then
is constant noise in Dunkirk.
Yes, until it stops and it's like dead silent.
Yeah, well,
that's what I'm trying to
when
say.
you get the dead silence, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So like it conveys that feeling too in a different way. And of course, like I said, since these are both historical things from World War II and they happened essentially at once, like during the same time frame, it's like you get the feeling of both of those from the soldier's point of view and then from the politician's point of view, as we said, in Darkest Hour.
Yeah.
And yes, of course, Oldman killed it. He was Winston Churchill, so pretty much all I can say about that.
Yeah.
Which we said.
The scene with him on the train talking to everyday people, I know that never happened. Effective propaganda? Sure. Am I still almost fighting back tears when the little girl says that they'll never surrender? Yes, that's happening. It's like, I know I'm being played, but I go with it because it's well executed.
I will back you up because Ian said, he's like, I know like they're trying to manipulate me, but it's working. So
right.
Yeah.
That's probably, honestly, a Spielbergian touch to add something like that, a man of the people kind of scene. But it works. It worked.
Sure.
I was really surprised with it.
Yeah. It was, we gave it a much better score and it was a much better movie than I thought it was going to be. So, I completely agree with that. I got a few more here. Which do you want to talk about, Morgan? We got Call Me By Your Name, Get Out, Lady Bird, or The Shape of Water?
I mean, aren't they all the same movie? If you really think
I
about
was going
it?
to make that joke too. Well, I was going to make that joke that at least Call Me By Your Name and Lady Bird are, in a sense, in a very broad sense.
I mean, they're all about romances that really don't work out.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Or one of them does.
Or one does, yeah. The best one.
Yeah, the fantastical one
right.
with a monster, like essentially.
The fish sex one.
Yes.
Well, let's talk about that then. We'll
sex?
talk about the odd one out.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yes.
The one that has the most nominations out of any of them, and one of, I think, in all history.
Does it?
I know 13 is up there. I don't think it
It's-
has the most, but it's probably like the top
it's
5
approaching it.
nominations
Yeah. All right.
out of any movie.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and it was a great, fable,
Yeah.
like fantasy story.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good return to form for Guillermo del Toro.
Mm.
I agree.
Like, I wasn't too crazy about Pacific Rim. I haven't seen Crimson Peak, but I mean, Pan's Labyrinth, Devil's Backbone.
It felt like this is like his core like material, and he just handles it really well.
Yeah.
And this one is
Yeah.
no exception. It might be one of the best of those.
Yeah, it's up there with his stuff. I was a really huge fan of Shape of Water.
Yeah, me too. Really well done. I think that somebody needs to give Octavia Spencer a better role than these, like, the maid.
Sassy secondary roles.
Yeah, I
like
said that too.
yeah.
Like the maid.
I mean, I
like,
love her as an actress, but I'll be very happy if I never see that type of
Yeah,
role offered again.
and I was surprised.
Yeah.
Like, she didn't get that much screen time in this movie. I was surprised that
But she's in supporting?
nominated for
Yeah.
supporting.
I noticed
Mhm.
that too.
But
Like-
I mean, she's a terrific actress.
She was good, but
deserves better than a role like this, to be
Right.
honest. And Michael Shannon
Yes.
is good, but he's the same exact character every single time he's on screen.
Mm.
I
or at least
think.
has been in it for
So,
a while.
yeah.
Yeah. He's got that Michael Shannon type.
Yeah,
He's typecast as like gruff government or a cop or something like that.
Right.
yeah. But other than that, very, very solid.
But it was
flick.
still very visually
Yeah.
appealing, of
And-
course.
oh,
It-
incredibly visual.
Such a lightness of tone.
Mm.
Like, it
Mm.
even feels something more like Jean-Pierre Jeunet, like an Amelie style movie,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
mixed with his more horror interest for
Yeah.
Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah, that's a really
Like, it
good
is
point.
Amelie meets Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah.
That's probably
That's
the
a good log
elevator
line.
pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we don't have to go too crazy in depth into the rest of these, but let's talk about Lady Bird, because I want to talk a little bit more in depth about the other two. So
Mhm.
let's talk about Lady Bird first.
Okay.
Lady Bird was a really impressive, like, twee fucking movie. Like, probably the best one I've seen since Juno, right? Like, I don't know how you feel about that.
I do really like it, and it's funny because I did not like Juno.
No?
I feel like Juno, and it's been years since I saw it. Juno is the kind of movie where they write every other character to be such a piece of shit just so she looks like the coolest character. And it's a little annoying.
Sure.
Like, it kind of sets her up to be, too cool for school. She gets all the best one-liners. She gets, like, all the end. I thought Ellen Page was good in the role, but just the way I felt a little annoying. In this one, Lady Bird, Greta Gerwig gives the main character the hardest time, doesn't let her get away with anything. You see her make the same mistakes that every teenager makes, but you don't think that she's a bad person. Like, it's a very understandable. I think the level of empathy here is a lot higher than usual. Like in Juno,
Yeah,
all the
really
other
well balanced.
characters are just kind of like jokes. And here, there was the potential to turn a lot of the background characters to jokes, but instead
Exactly.
it takes a turn that you really come at it from a different way. Like when her first boyfriend, played by Lucas Hedges, he's in theater with her and it was revealed he's gay. Any other sitcom that would have been like, ha ha, like the stereotype. But when he comes to her like, please don't tell anyone else, and he breaks down to her, it's like, oh yeah, homophobia is real.
Oh, yeah,
it's
he's
not
a
a
person.
joke.
Yeah.
He's a person.
It's grounded.
And I love that they brought that into it.
They do. I think this is. I really liked Juno
Mhm.
when it came out. I haven't seen it in years either, but I think that this is the natural progression of where something like that should go, because that was kind of the first of its kind, type
Right.
of movie, and like it created this whole
You would say
twee
subgenre,
universe.
maybe, but-
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
like,
and it just goes to show we need more movies with like young female leads rather than just having a couple comparisons.
yeah,
to
yeah.
go towards
Well, I mean,
it.
you got other stuff in that same type of universe, like Garden State or
Mhm. Coming of age,
yeah,
stories.
that type of thing. But overall, yeah, you're right. This was much a large progression from Juno in exactly the way that you said. Where like every character is
They're characterized and not just flat jokes.
even
as you
normally
said.
even if normally they would come off as a joke, they
They have
in
more
this
depth.
they're
Yeah.
very humanized and like given a lot of depth. I love the guy who plays the he's running the show. The
like
school
theater
show
guy.
and
Wait,
he's
the
priest.
director of the play?
Yeah.
Oh, the
Yeah.
priest,
The
right.
priest.
Yeah.
He was in Fences most recently
Yeah,
too. I
yeah.
think. Yeah. He's a great actor, and like his with 12 lines or whatever he had in this movie is so fucking memorable.
Yeah, he creates such an impression where he said, after the day of the play, he goes, "They didn't get
Nobody
it," which
gets
sounds like a very Wes Anderson style line. But then you find out later, oh, he's dealing with severe depression.
Yeah.
And it's like, it just adds a whole other shading to his character. And with like a few strokes, she's able to create like a person with a complete backstory. And it's just like, you wonder how he got to that point.
I agree. I'll give you one more example that I was sort of impressed with. So again, moving away from like the flat stereotypes. So when Lady Bird meets the popular girl, like what you think is be the popular bitchy girl is like a rival.
Right.
They end up becoming somewhat friends, and you get from her perspective, they're hanging out at the girl's house. Can't remember her character's name, but doesn't matter. They're just there, and she's like, "Yeah, listen, my plan is to stay here and like get married and have it. Like, I'm not just like one dimensional. Like, I want to be the queen bee of the school. Like again." Like you said, Morgan, and a couple of broad strokes, you get more filled out characters, and that makes it feel more grounded, and real and believable, and makes it a better film, I think.
Absolutely. And even though this is Greta Gerwig's directorial debut, she wrote a couple other films for, like, a previous one was Frances Ha, which I also really enjoyed. And I think Nights and Weekends, which she co-wrote with Joe Swanberg.
Nice.
Back when she was still a mumblecore actress.
Right. Are they the same type of feel, those flicks, or are they somewhat different?
I feel like Frances Ha is a more polished version of that, and maybe that's because of Noah Baumbach's direction. But in terms of Frances Ha and Lady Bird, I think there is like a distinct enough voice where they don't feel like treading the same territory.
Not like a repeat.
It's about, young women finding their way in society, both with like romance and creative fulfillment, but I don't think they tackle it.
It's not a copy.
Yeah.
Right. I gotcha. All right, cool.
For sure.
So yeah, that's Lady Bird, one of my favorites. Another A24 movie.
Exactly.
By the way.
Let's go work for them.
As was 3 Billboards. So let's talk about, I'm going to save Get Out for last. Let's talk about Call Me By Your Name.
Okay.
A really kind of brilliantly directed and acted movie about just summer love for this young kid who's like half American, I guess, and growing up in Italy, and his father's student, one of his father's student who comes to stay with them for the summer, and yeah, I mean, what did you think?
Oh, I absolutely love this film. I was a big fan of the director Luca Guadagnino. I think I'm probably mispronouncing that.
Mm-hmm. Better than we would do.
He's an Italian filmmaker. His most recent works were I Am Love and A Bigger Splash. I only saw I Am Love, the one with Tilda Swinton. Mm-hmm. But he's just got such a sensuous style where it's like vacation porn almost. And that's no exception in this movie where you have these beautiful villas, like the best weather, the best food, but he just captures it.
Summer, and it's all gorgeously laid out.
So tangibly. But a similarity with I Am Love in this one is just about personal epiphanies where these characters are kind of constricted by societal expectations and they kind of just go for it and risk it all depending on, consequences be damned, I guess, in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that was, it is like so lush, like everything that you see in this movie is so lush and like
well said,
rich and vibrant. Mm-hmm. And, he's got like the perfect, Elio, the main character, has like the perfect liberal parents. His dad's a professor and his mom, I think, is a translator, and they just live in the countryside of Italy and
very upper class academics that you just want that life.
Like, what the hell is this me? Mm-hmm. But there is it's such a brilliant way of showing it, and he really makes you the direction really makes you feel something for these two characters, as well as like feeling like this is an awesome setting, and a lot of that has to do with their acting. It was Armie Hammer and Timothée Chalamet,
I think.
And strangely enough, one of the first movies Armie Hammer was in was like some kind of crappy like movie about a special forces agent who like is this right? I think this is right.
I think you're thinking of The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Is that the one with?
No.
I don't know.
No, I don't think. I think it was like a special forces guy like from the American Army like is being hunted by the government or some shit like that. And I was like, Armie Hammer is the guy. There's a guy named Armie Hammer in this movie. Like maybe I'm thinking of something else, but
I don't know that movie.
I thought that was.
I think you might be completely wrong about this. I don't know.
Maybe.
Though.
Or maybe it was The Man from U.N.C.L.E. that I'm like.
Well, that's like a Guy
confusing
Ritchie spy
another movie
film.
with.
The first time I noticed Armie Hammer was in Social Network as the Winklevoss twins.
Right.
So that was the first time he came on my radar, and I thought he did a really good job in that. I was really surprised. Oh, it's one guy, and David Fincher magic made it seem like there were two distinct characters.
At that point I saw that movie, but I didn't really know who he was. Right, like it didn't. And then I heard his name, and I was like, "Oh, that's."
I think you just want him to be in like a generic.
I do want him to be
because his name is Armie Hammer.
Oh,
Right.
You took this role because your name is Armie Hammer.
Are you sure
You're
that's not the title of a movie? The Armie Hammer.
It might.
It's
be.
like some super gun.
Steve was subconsciously trying to influence what
It
movies
might be.
exist.
But no, he does a terrific job. He's actually an incredible actor, and I think this is this Chalamet's first like big role.
He was also in Lady Bird this year, but I'm trying to think of previous movies he
Was
did.
he
was the second boyfriend.
Like the bad boy stoner
Yeah.
guy.
Exactly,
Yeah, I
but
remember
like
that.
such a
I
perfect
forgot about
archetype, you know,
Yeah.
smoking cigarettes and
But again-
reading
but again-
Noam Chomsky.
fleshed out as we got
Right,
to.
and it's like you know that type.
Yep.
So
Yep.
he's good. I'm trying to think what else was he in. I can't think of that right now.
Yeah.
regardless, I think if
He'll
we're,
have a strong career.
yeah, if we're talking about Call My Name and like sort of winding down on it, I think like you said, the direction, just the shots, and like Vacation Point was an awesome way to describe like the cinematography of it, and then married to a very like a coming of age love story, like pretty
Right.
much in the time and for the culture of who the people are. So I think that's why it worked really well. And I like we said, I think on the episode, we enjoyed it a bit more than we thought we would coming in because it was so, again, like expertly crafted. So-
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, then let's talk about our last movie, Get Out. Probably my favorite movie of the year. Not only because like it does a lot of like work in terms of having a social message. Not I want to say like ramming it down your throat. It's at times very nuanced and at times like super obvious what you're supposed to get out of a scene. And it's also a lot of just fun as a horror movie and like as a comedy as well. There's a lot of different genre bending that's going on in this film, and like it's definitely not going to win, I don't think, but I
don't
wish
know.
it would.
I know.
Definitely would.
I want to live in a world where it wins.
Yeah.
I would really love it,
Yeah.
but I guess you're right. Like it's whatever. It's more of a long stretch or long shot. But regardless, if I may jump in, yeah, like you're right because it's the way it like straddles a lot of lines within genres and has an important and says something like important about our social culture, as you mentioned, like. And that's pretty impressive, especially because it's Jordan Peele's directorial debut, I believe. Even though he's done a lot of stuff with a Keen Peele, like sure, but this is a major motion picture, and he wrote it, I believe, as well, if I recall correctly.
He did.
So yeah, it's really impressive that he put all this effort and creativity into it, and it came out so well. And of course, like all the actors as well, Daniel Kaluuya, and like everything about it. And yeah, it's not a movie that like you would see like maybe 5 years ago even. And certainly not one that many would expect to previously have been in the Oscar nominations, but I think it's a really good sign that it is. And yeah, like it's my second or third favorite movie of all the films I've seen, regardless of Oscar noms or not this year. So yeah, it's just something special that I hope we could start seeing a lot more like it.
Right. I will say, even though Phantom Thread is my favorite of these movies, I want Get Out to win,
Yeah.
but just because of the impact it's had on the culture.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Like, just what it's added so much to the dialogue around institutional racism, microaggressions, that we now have a term sunk in place, that it could be applicable to a lot of situations.
Yeah, sure.
And the level of details that Jordan Peele crafted into it,
Yep.
you still can unpack so many of them.
Yeah, it's insane. I watched him do a video of like people asking questions like, did you mean for like this detail to indicate
Signify this or
and
whatever.
he would read the questions and then be like, yeah, or no, I don't know what the hell you're smoking way too much weed or whatever. But like, there's a ton of embedded stuff in this movie that I think people will be digging out of it for quite a while.
Absolutely. And he put a lot of thought and consideration into it.
Yeah, and you got to respect that, and it would be really, really cool if it wins, even though I guess it's probably not going to, but you never know, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's unlikely, but it would be great if it did.
But still,
I think at this point, Shape of Water is probably
it's the biggest
front
lock.
runner.
Yes,
Yeah.
I believe, right?
And that would be my guess as to what's going to win. But if I had to pick one that I wanted to win, it would be Get Out. So, what I also wanted to ask
Mm-hmm.
for both of you guys is, what movies do you think belong on this list? aren't
that were
there.
snubbed.
Yeah.
I took a peek at Morgan's notes, and I know there's one I agree with, so I'm gonna let him bring it up. I think.
You sneaking peeks?
Hey, you had it out on the
Peek
table,
sneaker.
my friend. I'm sorry.
Fair. Should cover that better.
Precast. I saw your notes real quickly, and
All right, the two movies. I think two movies should have gotten way more recognition throughout their nominations were The Florida Project and Mudbound.
yep.
And The Florida Project, I really feel it should have got at least a Best Picture nomination. Like what they were able to do, what they're conveying. I don't know how much you know about The Florida Project, but the story deals with
Not much.
pretty much people living in Skid Row in this really janky hotels located on the outskirts of Disney World. So it's kind of also a thing where if you go to Vegas or AC, like outside all the glamour of the casinos is just like a really hard set, impoverished lifestyle. And it deals with how kids live in this and their day-to-day activities, what they do for entertainment, how they get by, their struggles. And I think it just does it so beautifully and humanely. And it just really puts class tensions at the forefront. And I think everyone did an amazing job in it. And I really wish it got more respect out of the Academy this year.
Yeah, unfortunately, I did not get to see the Florida Project, but I did see Mudbound. So I do want to talk more to you about it because, yeah, I agree it's a total snub. And maybe we can get into like why like it didn't like it's because it's a Netflix movie, blah blah blah. But I just wanted to mention that if I had personally choose, The Post could go away and Mudbound could take its spot easily, and then it'd be an even stronger year because I thought it was a really awesome movie.
Yeah, like a part of me just wants to think it's because of this kind of unfair prejudice against Netflix. But
Sure.
even then, it's nominated for a few other categories.
Yeah.
So even those kind of barriers have to slightly
And,
break down.
When Manchester was an Amazon original, I believe,
Right.
last year or the
Exactly.
year before.
And I mean, Mudbound did get a quiet release in theaters, probably only for a week, whatever the contract
Sure.
with Netflix allowed.
Yeah.
But it
Still.
is just such an important movie. Like
Yeah,
you
I
can't
agree.
really ignore it in every element. It is nominated for cinematography with Rachel Morrison lensing that, who is the first female cinematographer to ever win. I mean, get nominated. Sorry, which is its own little like, are you fucking serious?
see that.
Yeah.
But overall, just I think a lot of what Mudbound has to say and how much we try to deny the past in this country, it really puts that to the forefront.
No, I definitely agree. And again, it was very like down to earth but believable story with the tension that is obviously there and that they're trying to comment on. That it all again melded together so well that I agree that I wish it got more recognition, got more like widespread. People knew about it more and more people saw it.
Yeah, it was a great flick that kind of I feel like it just kind of fell by the wayside, and it's the same thing as with it's the same kind of deal as Beast of No Nation from No Nations.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
correct.
The one you were confused but actually got it right was Beast of a Southern Wild, which similar titles, but yeah.
Yeah. Which was an incredible movie from, what was that, 3 years ago, right? And that, like, I wish that one had gotten nominated because that was another great Netflix movie. Now, granted, these are probably the only two Netflix movies that are even sniffing anywhere near Oscar worthy. But
For now, I
Yeah.
mean, Scorsese's next project is going to be a Netflix
that's what I'm
movie,
saying, like,
and it's like,
we're
how
moving-
much longer are you going to pretend that it's not a viable studio?
Yeah, we're
true.
moving towards a different paradigm, I would say, in a sense, or at least like switching from the big budget studios only and
Right.
like other outlets, like alternative outlets, if you are getting their voice out and making really good
well,
stuff.
Amazon's doing really great stuff
Yeah,
too.
that's what I'm saying.
You know, they had
They made The Big Sick as well.
This year they had The Big Sick, which was a great
yeah.
movie.
Did you
Yeah.
see that, Morgan, real quick?
I did. I love
Yeah.
The Big Sick.
Cool.
Yeah.
I will say the Netflix upcoming movie I'm most excited is Orson Welles' last unfinished movie, The Other Side of the Wind.
Yeah, I
They
just
found
heard,
all the footage.
I just heard about that the
and
other
they're
Really?
trying
day.
to compile
Yeah.
it. I'm like, are you kidding me?
That's
And
kinda-
you guys know how much I love Orson Welles, and I want to
Seriously, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to see
That's like uncovering the hidden arc
Yeah.
for
exactly.
films.
That's kind of great. Yeah. Did you have any other flicks that you wanted to include in the list?
No, that like I really just want to talk about Mudbound, and since I saw that he had it on a snub list, like I absolutely agree, and I'll just use this time to anyone who we did review it, in fact, and if you haven't heard about it or checked it out yet, you absolutely should,
Yeah.
Well worth seeing.
along with these other
A
films.
couple other ones I had down, which none of these of which I have seen yet, unfortunately, but that I really want to see. A Ghost Story is supposed to be really good.
Mhm.
Killing of a Sacred Deer, which is the follow-up to The Lobster by, what's his name?
Yorgos Lanthimos. Again, I need to
Yeah.
probably just go to Wikipedia, see how to pronounce a lot of these European directors. Apologies.
And Wind River was supposed to be really good, which is
I missed Wind River.
The
I did want to
follow-up
check
to,
the
Hell or High Water.
Follow Up to Hell or High
believe.
Water,
Yeah.
which was an incredible movie that got
Taylor Sheridan.
randomly, unexpectedly propped up into the nominees last year. One other one that I wanted to mention, which I just watched again recently, and I just had a lot of fun with this movie. I don't know if it should be a Best Picture Oscar nom, but Logan Lucky was like a really great Soderbergh.
Yes.
feeling.
That is
Like,
on my favorite films of the year, but because
Yeah.
it's not Oscar, yeah.
Yeah.
But I agree. It was awesome.
I liked it better than Ocean's 11.
Absolutely.
And
I
like-
like the progression between those two movies.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's kind of all I have.
I wish that did get some nominations. Like I thought the cast was phenomenal. The
Yeah.
story was phenomenal.
Yeah.
His cinematography and everything
Yeah,
else.
man.
that he
Everything
does.
about it. Again, Post can go away. Put him down. Put in Logan Lucky.
Yeah. Any of these flicks.
Yeah, I mean,
really.
Ghost Story and Killing of a Sacred Deer will never ever get a Best Picture nomination.
True.
They're great works. They're definitely worth seeing. But they're just way too experimental for
Yeah,
sure.
those kinds of
For the mainstream
sensibilities.
Oscar stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, fair
Plus, I think the Academy is trying to stay away from Casey Affleck this year as well.
I guess.
To some extent.
I mean, to be honest, a part of me is surprised that Phantom Thread did get a nomination for Best Picture. Like, I mean, on the surface, it looks like it would belong in
Yeah.
that category. But when you break down the relationship and the dynamics and the twist, not to use the word twist,
Yeah.
like, it's pretty
How it
twisted
unfolds.
Yeah.
for a Best Picture nomination.
That's fair
Sure.
enough. I mean, but again, like in this case, I would say it has a pedigree, much like Spielberg and Hanks,
Right.
but like obviously a better done one that I
Yeah.
think was better
You
executed.
can't ignore the talent on
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah, I think
exactly.
if you put Paul Thomas Anderson and Daniel Day-Lewis together, you're going to get an Oscar movie.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
it's
yeah.
like almost no matter
It's like
what.
an easy
yeah.
formula
Right.
in a sense,
Like
but
it's tough for the voters to not vote them.
Yeah.
I would say.
Very
and,
true.
And on top of that, you got a really good movie. So,
Oh, absolutely.
not sure.
But anyway, is there anything else? We don't have too much time left to talk about, go through all of these as we've done in the past. But are there any other categories that you want to talk about or briefly mention before we're done?
I'm trying to think. I mean, there's something to comment on each and every one. Are you trying to keep a limit?
Well, we got
this?
about 10 more minutes of film, I think.
Oh, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Speaking of films,
Yeah.
Okay.
Dude, super fast. Go. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Do you think the director category is fair? Like, is that a good spread?
Yeah, I like a lot of the work done on here. I mean, I having not seen Dunkirk, I'm not the biggest Chris Nolan fan,
Sure.
so a lot of his stuff is hit or miss with me. I would easily replace it with probably a bunch of other names.
Right.
Again, Dee Reese with Mudbound, having that.
Mm.
I would have put Sean Baker, who did Florida Project, even Sofia Coppola, who did The Beguiled. She got the Best Director award at Cannes this year.
I do have to see that.
Yeah, well worth it.
Right, how
Also-
about this? We'll close off. Morgan, what are your picks for actor, actress, and then supporting as well?
that will win, that will want to win, or all the above?
Both. The one that you think you win and one that you think is the best in each.
Okay, I'll start with actor in a leading role.
Yep.
I think the lock is Gary Oldman.
Mhm.
In all fairness, I haven't seen Denzel Washington in Roman J. Israel Esquire.
And we did not either, so
Yeah.
in all disclosure.
But every one of them did an amazing job. I love that Daniel Kaluuya got recognized for that part.
Yeah, man.
But I guess I would either want him or Timothée Chalamet to take it. I
Fair
mean,
enough.
just to have the credit sequence, a close-up on his face as he's breaking down Unbroken for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
You have to be like on top of your fucking
That's
game
fair, yeah,
as
good-
an actor
that's a
for
good
that.
point.
So really impressive. For Best Actress, sorry, let me just pull up the...
I get you.
Oh, it was right next to it. Sorry.
Middle column, I believe, yes.
I think Frances McDormand will take it,
Mhm.
and I'm okay with her winning. I
Okay.
think she is one of the best parts of Three Billboards.
Did you see I, Tonya?
I did see I, Tonya.
What'd you think?
I loved it.
I really have to see that.
Yeah,
I've
we
been
wanted
looking forward
to
to
get
it
to it.
since
Yeah.
about 3 weeks before its release. I heard that it existed, and we saw like a trailer, and I was like, "Holy shit! What is this movie? I have to see it." And I still haven't seen it yet, but I'm definitely gonna go watch it.
Yeah, the
Pretty soon.
rehabilitation of Tanya Harding is
Yeah.
alive and well. But I thought she did a great job. Margot Robbie did such an amazing job. But then Saoirse Ronan with Lady Bird just playing a very believable, it's almost like an unshowy part.
Yeah.
But that's what makes
Kind
it...
of why it works.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's like nothing out of the ordinary. And then Meryl Streep is Meryl Streep, so she will get nominated.
Yeah.
Exactly. You see? That's my issue. Anyway, go on.
Let me see if I had any snubs. I think for Best Actor, I would have liked to have seen John Cho recognized for this movie he did called Columbus. This is like a really small, minimalist indie movie that I thought he made a really big impact in.
Fair enough.
And also his co-star in that, Haley Lou Richardson, I would have liked to seen get a nomination for Best Actress. Now, you want to go on to actor in a supporting role?
Yeah, do the supportings, and then I think we'll.
I just think also, as an aside, it's really funny to see Christopher Plummer, all the money in the world.
Yeah.
In
his 2-week acting gig.
You know, he was prepping on the plane over to wherever to do it. But hey, when you got it, you got it, right?
Sure, I suppose. Yeah.
I mean, I want Willem Dafoe to win it. I think he's like a dark horse to get it, but it's probably between Woody Harrelson or Sam Rockwell for 3 billboards.
I mean, that's the general consensus. So sub question quick. So between that and 3 billboards, who deserves it more between Rockwell and Harrison?
I would give it to Harrelson.
Just
because I mean, again, I've mentioned my problems with the character, and it's not that that's not really on Sam Rockwell.
I was going to say, did he do a bad job?
Yeah. He did do a good job with just like a shittily conceived part, but he did do
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I have some snubs for Best Supporting Actor. I think Adam Sandler in the Meyerowitz Stories I thought was really impressive, which is another Netflix film from Noah Baumbach. And for snubs on Best Actress, I think Rooney Mara in A Ghost Story did a really great job.
I gotta see it still. Fucking yeah.
And Kristen Stewart in Personal Shopper was also amazing.
Fair enough. Who do you think will take actress supporting?
Oh, I didn't even talk about the ones that were nominated out of the ones. I think it will be Allison Janney. And even though I think she did a great job, I think she kind of plays it rather one note. Like she plays the abusive mother of Tonya Harding.
She plays that trope and she plays it well.
Every scene, you know, she just chews through it like it's a fine steak. And that's fine, but I don't really feel like it was a layered part.
Yeah, fair enough.
I really want Leslie Manville and Phantom Thread to win it. I think just her to be able to stand up to DDL without like yelling at him, like "Don't go with me, you won't come out alive," without like even looking at him while drinking tea. I thought was the most amazing.
You're making the biggest mistake of your life, anyway.
Exactly. I'll let you bury yourself.
Yeah,
like she killed it in that part. And if not her, I'd like to see Laurie Metcalf for Lady Bird.
Yeah. Laurie Metcalf did an absolutely astonishing job.
I would like Laurie as well.
I think that she did a wonderful.
If she wins, I wouldn't be upset. In fact, I'd be cheering.
She ran the entire gamut of emotions so well in that movie.
And just her interactions with her daughter, where you see her deliver a possibly insulting line, but not be aware of it. It's like you realize the hurt that she's causing her daughter, but that she's oblivious to. You can't even be mad at her because it's just so off the cuff.
Yeah.
That you really, again, it shades everyone so beautifully.
Exactly.
Everyone's from an understanding where you don't judge them. And I think that's a quality to the writing.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's us discussing the Oscars. And, we're doing this before the episode that's going to come out before.
Through the magic of editing. So you'll see a different one first.
This is going to wrap up our Oscars coverage for the 2017 Oscars here in 2018. But, Morgan, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about movies again. You know, it's always a great time to have you on.
Oh, thank you for having me.
No problem. And as I said, I got a couple links that I'll link to you guys for Morgan for his podcast and for the supercut of the movies that he did this year, and for the for
the wrap up of the year.
And I've been your host, Steve Ramosi, and I've been joined here with fellow Lost Signals commenter Scott Thurlow.
See you next time.
And
peace.
Have a good night.
Editing and engineering by Stephen Ramosi. Music by Christopher Morgan. Check us out on YouTube and iTunes for the shows, and on Facebook and Twitter for updates.